The Academy Awards. A night of magic. A night of glamour. But most importantly, and above all, a night of unhealthy self-absorption.
You like me!
Yeah, let's be real. The Academy Awards is a night, really, for celebrities to, well, celebrate each other for being celebrities.
That sounds awful.
However, the Academy Awards serve another purpose, a purpose that I personally enjoy and try to focus on when it comes to the event. I feel the Academy Awards are a time for film appreciation. The winner is kind of more or less beside the point for me.
And the Oscar goes to...
I don't care.
These films are nominated for Best Picture. They've already won in my book. So let's take a look at these films nominated for Best Picture and talk about why they should win Best Picture. Hello everybody, welcome to Film Fireside. Sound of Metal is also nominated for 6 Academy Awards. Most every Best Picture nominee is nominated for 6 Academy Awards. It's a little weird. So let's just dive right in and talk about why Sound of Metal should win Best Picture. This goes without saying probably, but we'll be talking spoilers. We're talking heavy spoilers in this film. So if you have not seen Sound of Metal yet, go watch it. It is on Amazon Prime and it's worth watching, so go give it a watch. Okay, this one's obvious, but sound.
Well, duh.
It's still worth mentioning, though, that this film is an auditory masterpiece. Is that even a word? Auditory? It's good for ears. Right from the very first just few moments of this film, we just know we're in for something that is just insanely special and unique and unlike anything we've ever experienced. If you listen closely, near the end of that little crazy drum solo, you can hear the ring begin to happen. And it kind of actually comes in and out throughout as well. There's just this slight ring, and you start to gently hear that he's beginning to lose his hearing. I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is just basically me saying the concept of this film is fantastic. I mentioned this in my review as well, that the execution of this concept is very intentional and therefore it makes the film all the much better. I mean, notice something in about this film. I'll point this out to you now and this will transition to my next point. The more he fights to keep that sound or to fight for the hearing in his ear, the more he loses it. Or maybe even, it's better to say, the more he's fighting for his perfect world that he has, he begins to lose his hearing. Part of that intentional element with the sound is deciding moments when we hear what Ruben hears, our main character, played beautifully by Riz Ahmed, by the way, and when we are just an observer. Basically, from sound perspective, it goes from first person to third person, if that makes sense. It jumps back and forth with that very frequently. Now, the decision to do that, like I say, is very intentional. So why would it allow us to come in and out of there? And I think we just need to take a look at Ruben. Pretty early on, we realize he's kind of a ticking time bomb of a personality. He's not very stable, is a good word that we can use to describe our main character, Ruben. In other words, he exhibits destructive behavior. For example, as he first begins losing his hearing and he goes to the doctor says, avoid loud noises. And what does he do? Goes and plays his concert without saying anything. That decision proves detrimental and really takes his hearing down quite a few notches and sets things in motion for him to now really need help. Another self-destructive element in play is how resistant he is to getting the help he needs. And it takes for his girlfriend Lou, leaving to make that a reality. That scene is almost melodramatic, not because the actors are portraying them melodramatically. The characters are melodramatic human beings, and the actors portray that just beautifully. They are, the acting in this is absolutely incredible. I say melodramatic because many things are being thrown out.
You hurt yourself? Ruben, you hurt yourself? You hurt me. I'll hurt myself too.
I need you to wait for me. Okay? You're it for me, Lou. You're my heart. You're it for me.
Some unhealthy stuff going on here, a bit of codependency perhaps.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Before I get too far into this, it's maybe important to mention that they point out that Ruben is an addict, or he's an addict in recovery. He mentions that he is 4 years sober. I'm not too sure how legitimate this is. The film, to me, I think there is a possibility that he is potentially lying about the whole 4 years sober thing. I don't know. It suggests that maybe isn't the full truth, isn't the 100% truth. The way he's saying it, I don't know if anyone else picked on this. Maybe it's just me and I'm just being too judgmental of him or something like that. But it more or less suggests that being 4 years sober isn't, I don't don't know, it could be a lie, but regardless, it really doesn't matter too much to the film and also to the film's point. But throwing that out there, that it maybe serves the fact that that's part of his destructive behavior as well, that he could be lying there, and the fact that maybe I'm questioning it is just another sign of that. So he finally accepts help just because of Lou, and I want to then jump forward to the scene where Joe, who is, again, beautifully played by Paul Raci, pulls him aside and asks him to spend his mornings in his office with nothing there but a piece of paper and himself, and to just sit in stillness. That scene is amazing because he can't even do that. He still exhibits destructive behavior, literally destroys the donut that's there with him, and he can't sit still. Made me realize something about this that's really interesting. I think sometimes we mistakenly place quietness with stillness, and that's not the same thing at all. We have quiet moments in our day-to-day, whether we're traveling, we're at work, working on a project by ourselves. Those moments aren't stillness. There are these quiet moments within the film as well, but I feel like a lot of care is taken to show that he is not still. He's not at peace. In fact, let's just jump back to the very beginning of the film. He shows his morning routine, and he has a very active morning, which is a great thing to do, by the way. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. Wakes up his girlfriend, they hit the road, and again, it's kind of humorous, but it just shows that it suggests that they were talking very consistently the entire road trip. Now, again, nothing wrong with that. I talk with my wife when we take road trips. However, one of the things with my wife and I when we were dating that we both thought that we actually were kind of attracted to each other by, my family lives in a different state, so when we first went to meet my parents, that we took a road trip pretty early on in our dating. And on that road trip, we both were able to just sit in silence. And that was a huge green flag for both of us, because we're like, wow, I felt comfortable just being quiet with you. I didn't feel awkward about us not talking. I didn't feel like I needed to keep the conversation going. I was happy to just sit and be in your company, and there was nothing wrong with that. As I say, nothing wrong with conversations with your girlfriend, nothing wrong with working out and having a very active morning. However, Joe, I think, makes a very wise observation about maybe something Ruben is struggling with, especially when it comes to his addiction and in his addiction recovery. One thing about addiction recovery that most addicts will learn is sobriety. 4 years sober, 10 years sober, 50 years sober doesn't mean cured. Does not mean the addiction won't come back. How many years sober is the standard requirement for, okay, then this is obvious, this is officially out of your life and you never have to worry about it again. For one, that's probably different for a lot of people, and two, you always have the option to go back to it. You know what I mean? Now, I want to be careful here. I don't want to trigger anyone. 4 years sober. Let's assume for a second he actually is 4 years sober. That's amazing. That's totally worth celebrating and worth complimenting. However, he, as we say, is a ticking time bomb of destructive behavior. The sobriety isn't fully offering him a perfect, healthy lifestyle necessarily. You know what I mean? It's very clear that a lot of part of his active lifestyle perhaps is him filling the void. Whatever void that he was turning to substances for, he is turning to perhaps morning routine, Lou, his girlfriend. And even when he's at this house, he's up early in the morning fixing a roof because he's got to keep busy, you know? Again, that's a great tool. Any actor will tell you, keeping busy is a great tool to help you, especially when you're feeling, some urges coming on, a bit of withdrawal, those things. Staying busy is a great thing to do within those moments. But the question you have to ask yourself then, what if you can't work out one morning? Let's use him specifically. Say there is a specific song he listened to every morning, and that was his keep me clean song, whatever, you know what I mean? You lose your hearing, can't listen to that song anymore. So then what? Then what? Most addicts will tell you finding that stillness, that's a huge difference in really recovering from an addiction. Ruben is very clearly missing this aspect within his life all the way until the very, very end of the film. You finally see him take his earpiece off and sit. Finally, we get the first POV shot in this film. I didn't realize this until I watched an interview with Darius Martyr. I think I kind of noticed it, but I didn't I guess this just confirmed my awareness of this. There is not one POV shot that exists throughout this entire film. And when I say POV, I mean point of view, meaning the camera takes Ruben's perspective. That doesn't happen at all until this very, very end scene, these last like 2 seconds of this movie, where he finally just strips away the earpieces and just sits and is with himself. The silence in this scene is almost as loud as this insane rock concert that we hear at the very beginning of the film. A beautiful contrast, and that's where he learns and really finds stillness for the first time. This same interview I mentioned earlier, there is another part of this interview where Darius Martyr kind of talks about his experience making this film, and he tells a little story that I'll just throw in this clip real quick for you.
But I also knew that there was going to be one core truth, which was that this was a other culture, not another condition, not the condition or physicality of deafness, but in fact a culture.
Deafness is not a condition, deafness is a culture. So another thing this film does is it brings light and representation to a beautiful culture that gets representation almost never from anywhere really, let alone mainstream film or award-winning films. So this film does a great good in bringing light to a reality that exists and a world that exists right under our noses that most of us are completely unaware of. So this film is really good for that reason as well. Even more so, Ruben finding acceptance within this community and finding belonging within this community is actually a part of this film where he starts to go back on the up and up again. It's not until he perhaps gets scared and doesn't want to commit too much to this community that he then reverts back to wanting to fix his hearing. So therefore, I want to mention something here. I think there's dual meaning in the phrase deafness is not a condition. Obviously, one, being deaf doesn't mean you're ill or you're sick or that you are less than anything. I think the dual meaning here maybe is better to say the ability to hear is not a prerequisite for happiness. Therefore, deafness is not a prerequisite for happiness either, or a condition that I place upon myself in order to be happy. I need to be able to hear perfectly. I need to be able to, fill in the blank here. And I think that's something this film really suggests as well. Joe calls out Ruben at one point after he gets his surgery and asks Joe for money. And when he says,
"From where I'm sitting, you look and sound like an addict."
Experiencing addictive-like behaviors towards things in our life that don't have much value is still unhealthy. One thing about an addiction, and again, one thing I'll point out too, the sign for addiction, I didn't know until I watched this, is hook. I think I'm not too sure if it depends on, because I'm ignorant, forgive me. I don't know if it's like this side or this side that makes that difference, but hook. You're hooked onto something. And meaning that this takes over your life. So my question is if addiction is being hooked on something and needing it in our life, are there things in our lives that we need or that we think we need that we don't? That's an addictive mindset that we have to get rid of. And part of why finding stillness is so beautiful. We don't only not need whatever substance is controlling our life, we realize there's a lot of things that really don't matter. If this story took place and we took things a little differently, and in this moment, instead of fighting to get the surgery done and selling his car so he can afford to get the surgery done, if he was selling all his stuff he had and sneaking around trying to get another dose of whatever substance he's addicted to, that would be really sketchy, right? We should also be worried about the fact that he's so unhealthily obsessed by the fact that he now can't hear and feels so stuck. That's not healthy. That's an addictive mindset. So this then begs the question, and that this film then begs the question, what needs do I have in my life? Do I need the job I have right now? Do I need the amount of money I make right now? Not that having a job isn't good, not that making money to provide for my wife and my little baby daughter aren't good, but what if those things are stripped away? Another element of this interview, I'll just put a clip in real quick here.
Yeah, we had this mantra right from the beginning, which was, if you strip everything away, is what I am enough?
The question is, and the beautiful message is, when you strip it all away, are you enough? Yes, you are. You are enough. That's the message of this film to me, and that's why I think this film should win Best Picture. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me your thoughts on Sound of Metal below. Are there analytical points that I failed to mention here? I'm sure there are, so please comment them below and get a discussion going with me in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that way you don't miss out on any content coming. More specifically, that you do not miss out on the next episode of Why It Should Win. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Bye-bye.